What has that journey been like for you transitioning to gaming?
It's not been easy, to be honest. Well, I started in working in a call center for a telecommunications company, actually.
What's your one bit of advice to other talent specialists like yourself for entering the market?
I think it's very important that you build and you maintain your network.
Opportunities rise from speaking to each other. What has been the biggest challenge for you from a recruitment perspective, being a new studio in Montreal?
So some of them, let's say for job postings, we're trying to have those postings which are less restrictive in terms of requirements.
Don't Nod has been putting out some internship positions for recent grads. What sort of experience has that been?
Something that was very important for us was to make sure that we had the right team, enough of seniors and people that had interest to be able to support those interns that would join the team.
Don't Nod Montreal have been cooking up their first original IP. What can everybody expect?
The players can expect compelling stories, as always. Of course, I can't say much right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pixel Perspective. I'm Selim Ozturk, founder and director of the Pixel Movement, and today I have the pleasure of hosting Jacob on my first ever podcast. I recently launched the Pixel Perspective to give and share industry insights with the gaming community. It's a platform for gaming leaders and talent leads to be able to share their stories, their challenges, insights, and achievements, and have all-round fun during these conversations. So, Jacob, over to you.
Thanks again for the invitation. It's really an honor to be part of your podcast. A little bit about me. So I'm a talent acquisition specialist right now at Don't Nod Montreal. So a video game studio for a bit more than 2 years now. So I think we will be able to learn a bit more about myself during this podcast.
I'm excited. And look, once again, thank you for being a part of it. You and I have been speaking for a little over 8 months. And first and foremost, my question to you will be that, like, you've been in the world of talent acquisition since, I believe, 2019, but it started off as corporate recruitment. So my first question is going to be, what has that journey been like for you transitioning to gaming?
Yeah, I would say it's not been easy, to be honest. I can share some history here. So basically, we do know that the video game industry in Quebec is very tight-knit. So I think it's not easy to break in. In my case, I was able to take advantage of the market back then, where companies and studios were actively recruiting in 2022 when I joined Don't Nod. So it was just before the end of the pandemic. Most studios were still actively looking for candidates in large numbers, so that required a larger pool of candidates and therefore more recruiters, So of course, it has changed a little bit since the end of the pandemic with the current market context. So opportunities are much rarer for recruiters right now. And it leaves, I think, fewer opportunities also for people who like to enter the industry. In my case, as you've mentioned, so I started in working in a call center for a telecommunications company, actually. So I first started by taking calls and doing customer service. And then at some point, I moved into supervisor roles. I was also doing my studies at the same time I was working. So I was given at some point an opportunity to support the recruitment team for a few months to hire people who would do the job I was doing and supervising for, actually. It was a great first experience. And at the end of my studies, the job market, again, was very unstable with the arrival of the pandemic. In Quebec, only essential businesses were open that summer. So it was very hard to find recruitment opportunities for new graduates. I did a series of temporary HR contracts. I really wanted to work and not stay at home and do nothing, So I finally ended at some point a few months contract again with an engineering company. It eventually led to a permanent role, so I was very happy about that. I really liked the team, the hiring managers, and my role, but there was some kind of lack of passion at some point. I was not someone passionate about engineering, especially about like civil engineering and things like that. So at some point, I decided to look for something a bit more interesting for me. And why not combine my passion for both video games and recruitment?
Yeah, it's one hell of a story. And at one point, did you start thinking to yourself, it's gaming that I wanted to do? Was gaming sort of built into you from your childhood days, and was it a childhood passion, or is it something that gradually grew and you thought to yourself, this is what I want to do?
I've always been passionate about video games. I've been a consumer of video games myself. I've been playing games since I'm very young. I do really like music as well, and music from video games and film. So everything video games and film industry related is a passion for me. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned actually is that, like most people, I used to think that you had to be a programmer, a designer, or an artist to be able to join the video game industry. But in reality, it still is a business like any other, so it needs people in support functions. So whether it's like in HR, accounting, finance, marketing, communications, or even like logistics, really, I would say open your horizons and apply to industries you're passionate about, because we're going to work and do that for a very long time. So we might as well want to make sure that we're having fun.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, because having worked in the industry, gaming specific, for the past 4 years, there seems to be a preconceived perception that you have to have a gaming background to break in to the gaming world. But when it comes to sort of HR, operations, or other types of roles, there are ways in, which you're a clear example of this. So it's good to hear that someone with passion for video games found a way in. What has been the one biggest lesson that you've learned from entering into the games market? Because the corporate recruitment is completely different, and I firsthand have lived through that. I did tech recruitment for 8 years in the corporate industry, working with digital, interactive, and tech startups. What has been that one lesson that you've learned since coming into gaming?
Yeah, I think it really is a creative industry, so like the hiring managers are really passionate about what they do. So something I've learned is that you don't have to be afraid, especially when you come out from the industry, to go to the hiring managers and ask them about what their job is, what the candidate they're looking for will be doing, and they're being very, very open and passionate, and they want and they're very open to share their passion and explain to you what the role is. So that's something that has helped me a lot when I entered the industry, to be able to learn everything about all the different roles. Because again, there's a lot of different recruiting roles in the video game industry. Some people are very specialized and only people, let's say, in art or animation or for tech roles. In my case, I recruit for everything at the studio, including corporate roles, technical roles, IT roles, marketing roles, artist roles. So I recruit for all the roles. So it's very important to be open to learn, of course, to be passionate about the industry, and don't hesitate to basically ask more questions to the hiring managers to make sure that you understand the roles correctly.
Yeah, always ask questions. So when I first came into it as well, came into gaming, and I hadn't had a lot of knowledge about it, I asked my candidates, because everyone is so passionate about what they do. And this is one of the main reasons that I fell in love with gaming. From a recruitment perspective, it wasn't transactional and it wasn't driven by money, but it was driven by passion that these people have had for years and years from childhood. And yeah, look, I think going back to the question from an answer perspective, ask as many questions as possible, and you'll find that everybody wants to have a conversation with you and give you that information. So it's amazing to see what sort of lessons you've learned. What would your one bit of advice be to other talent acquisition specialists entering the gaming market? Because there are a lot of talented folks out there now due to the layoffs that are trying to get back into it. And there are other people that want to enter the market, because the gaming market is a unique, wonderful little community. what's your one bit of advice to other talent specialists like yourself for entering the market?
Yes, I think it's very important that you build and you maintain your network. As you mentioned, especially in today's job market, it's harder to get into the industry. Opportunities are scarcer. There are more candidates looking for work as well. As you said, some people have been laid off. So you need to make sure that you maintain your network, attend to industry events, attend to panels as well. Try to build those relationships. And for the people already in the industry, of course, please give people outside of the industry the opportunity to become part of your network. Help them connect with other industry professionals. I think it's really a great opportunity to be part of this creative industry, and it's something we should emphasize on. And that's one of the reasons, why I decided to get involved, for example, on the board of directors of the Extinction, to be able to promote exchange, sharing, diversity, and inclusion in the local video game industry. So I'm trying to do my part in this industry. But of course, please participate to those events. Make sure that you build and maintain those networks. Of course, applying on the roles is a first step, but then after you need to make sure that you're able to get in touch with the hiring managers or the recruiters and to be able to network with those people.
Yeah, completely, because it's such a competitive market now, given that there are so many people looking for a job and to get back into things, that you've got to essentially stand out and you've got to go the additional steps. The days of applying for a position, I feel, are sort of little long gone. And you made a amazing statement there of utilize your connections, utilize your network, and attend events, because opportunities rise from speaking to each other. That it is the one thing that I've learned over the past couple of years. Sometimes those jobs are not there. And by having the conversation with people like yourself, with hiring managers, attending events and showing your capabilities and expressing your story, then anything can come out of it. So yeah, look, that's amazing. So on to my next question. So a lot of people will question this. So Don't Nod established itself many years ago, but really put its stamp on the market with Life is Strange back in 2015. And they've always been known for their incredible narrative-driven stories. So since launching the Montreal studio, how does that differentiate from what's going on in Paris so far and what has been done? How does the Montreal office operate essentially?
Yeah, there's a bit over than 50 of us now at the Montreal studio. Really, I think the possibility of creating a studio from scratch in Montreal has certainly been beneficial and a very great opportunity for us to help maintain a certain parity as well throughout the studio's growth. So that's something I'll be able to tell a bit more after. But of course, we're still part of the whole Don't Nod group. We kind of have some own identity here in Montreal, I would say, with the team here. But we do collaborate a little bit as well with the Paris studio on that new project we're working on, of course. And that's something we're very glad to be able to be part of that group, of course.
Amazing. So Montreal is a gaming hub. I've been to Montreal twice now. I've had the opportunity to meet some wonderful clients, including yourself last year. How does a studio like Don't Nod Montreal start a studio from scratch? Of course, you've got the ethics, you've got the culture and the reputation of Don't Nod in Paris. How do you then come in and establish the same sort of culture and uphold that reputation in a new location with a different culture? Not very different because it's French speaking, obviously, in Montreal. But how do you start?
Yeah, of course. And I can tell that even if we speak the same language, sometimes there's some differences in terms of culture. So, of course, we do share the same values as the Paris studio. But there's a few things that we've tried to put in place at the Montreal studio as well. And the culture is not something we want to. We don't want like the direction team to put the culture in place. We really want it to come from the collaboration between everyone part of the team. So it's something that comes from the ground and not going top to bottom, of course. So we've tried to build an environment where the key messages about inclusion in general are becoming very natural within the whole studio. The goal being that having a balanced, diverse, and inclusive team is a message that naturally infuse and is part of the studio culture. It means that we need sometimes to have the courage and luxury to even sometimes delay certain recruitments or takes more time to find the right people who will share the same values as the studio. And because we also want to encourage as much as we can diversity and parity within our teams. And it's because I truly believe that diverse teams allow for greater creativity. It brings different point of view and experiences. It leads to better decision making, and ultimately it gives us the opportunity to create better games. So that's something I'm very passionate about. Of course, I think I told you my master's research project on these very subjects, on the factors influencing the implementation of diversity and inclusion strategies in the Quebec video game industry. But the important thing is that we don't do it for marketing sakes. We really do it because we believe it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. It goes back to saying you've got to do the right thing, and having the right ethics and doing things for the right reason, having the right values, the right culture is super important. How early on when you are approaching candidates to join Don't Nod, for example, how early on do you start talking about the culture and the values, and what is the reception to it?
Yeah, I think it's very important to discuss those topics very early in the process. So it's something I usually try to do at the very first call I have with the candidates. And basically, I think what's been easier in our case is that the studio has kind of clearly taken a position on those topics. And even if you look at the type of games we've been creating in the past few years, Life is Strange being one of those examples, we're really trying to discuss about real life topics, things that matter and that are important to include to video games. So most of the people who apply and who don't know already know about our culture and our values. So I think people are being very open about that.
Yeah, because so much time and effort is invested into the personalities of those characters in the game. So I guess it resonates with the types of people that want to join the business. So what has been the biggest challenge for you from a recruitment perspective, being a new studio in Montreal?
Yeah, so of course, building a team from scratch is a very big challenge in itself, but also putting in place new processes, recruitment technologies to support those processes and pipelines, new strategies as well. So we put in place a lot of practices at the studio. So some of them, let's say for job postings, we're trying to have those postings which are less restrictive in terms of requirements, which are more open to answer more diverse talent again, and has access to positions they might not perceive as a possibility. Also, as a recruiter, to provide them with solid mentorship so they feel supported during the whole interview process at the right place, and that they're being confident during that process as well. It also includes not mentioning, for example, specific numbers of years of experience on the job posting so people don't self-disqualify. Sometimes people write that they're looking for someone with 5 years of experience. If you have 3, maybe you're still an interesting candidate for them. So please don't self-disqualify. Of course, if they're looking for a director level candidate and you're a new graduate, you probably won't be able to have that job, unfortunately. Also, adopt inclusive writing in our job postings. It's important regularly to challenge our practices for HR recruitment we're doing, as well as for internal mobility. Make sure that we assess the equity criteria as well at the studio. So those are part of recruiting challenges, of course. Also, training for hiring managers, unconscious bias. So there's unconscious bias in everyone, even if we're being trained for them. It's important to be able to understand those biases and make sure that they're not influencing our decisions in the recruitment process. Also, in line with our values, we've introduced menstrual leave at the Montreal studio, so that's something we're very proud of. And we're trying as well to adopt a personalized approach in our hiring process. So it's important as it's representative of the studio culture, So it's about open communication, ensure that candidates have all the information they need to make the best decisions for themselves. Really, the goal is for candidates to feel empowered to accept or decline our offer with confidence. It's really a two-way street conversation. It's sometimes difficult for studios to understand that because they really want someone to join them. But it's very important to be transparent and make sure that the candidates have all the information they need to take their decision to join us or not. We want to make sure that the people join us for the right reasons, and if we do so, there's a better chance that they will stay with us for a longer period, of course, because we've been transparent and they won't have any surprise when they join us. So all of those elements are part of the challenges we need to take into account when we think about recruitment, of course.
Yeah, I think you've explained it really, really well. And there were some really interesting topics that you touched upon just then. We see it on a daily basis where we see job advertisements asking for 5 years experience or 10 years experience. And from what I've seen and witnessed firsthand, there could be someone with 4 years experience that holds back from applying to a position that says 5+ years experience. But that person has so much potential. So to take that away from job descriptions, I think it's a wonderful thing. But of course, when there are director level roles, etc., there is a certain sort of type of experience that you're looking for, so many years in the industry, leadership, etc., etc. So that's amazing. But wanting people to join you for the right reasons is one of the best things that I've always said. Even as an external partner, I don't think that no studio, no external partner should ever have the right to actually influence someone's decisions for them to join a business. Now, everybody will want the same outcome, but everything has to align. As much as it's an interview for that candidate for you to test their capabilities, if they're the right cultural fit, it's the same goes to a candidate. Is this studio right for me? Does it align with my beliefs? What am I going to gain out of it? So it's a two-way thing. And as long as both parties feel that they are on the same page, then that's when the amazing match happens, and it's something long term. And we all want to be in this for the long term and for the right reasons. And you get the best out of everyone once they've got all of the information and they are content with their decision, which is one of the most important things. I always, when we're going through an interview process with someone, for example, that is going through an interview with Don't Nod, you want them to be content with that decision. You want to give them time to be able to think about it, take the time, think about it. And once you've made that decision, know that you're sure. So it's amazing to hear that you've got the same views. What has been the biggest success so far?
Basically, I think building the team from scratch has been one of the biggest success we've had at the studio, of course, and for myself as a recruiter. Especially for certain teams where we've had some challenges, of course. Sometimes we have some challenges with some specific teams, and building those teams from scratch really is something sometimes difficult, because when you start reaching out to people, and then let's say hiring managers tell you, hey, we don't need only one person, but maybe like 4 of them in the next 6 months. You're like, okay, yeah, we might be able to do that, but you need to understand that it's the same pool of candidates, that we're going to reach out to. So sometimes the timing is not the right one. So of course, sometimes it took a bit more time to find some people in some teams. But yeah, that's a very big challenge. But I think we've been able to get everyone we needed to be able to complete that first project, and that is one of the biggest achievements I think we've been able to do. as well as yes, hiring those people and building the teams, but at the same time creating the studio from scratch. So doing a game is really a challenge in itself. So when you do it at the same time as you're creating a new studio and building the studio culture, it really is a very big challenge, of course.
To be able to step back and see how this team has grown in such a short space of time, that within itself should actually be a big success, and you should obviously be very proud of yourself. Well, you was touching on some roles there, and sometimes hiring managers say, well, I need 4 of them or I need 6 of them. What's been the hardest role that you had to recruit for?
Yeah, I think especially in the current market, the technical roles are probably the most difficult ones. It's known by most of the recruiters, So I've been discussing with a lot of recruiters in other studios, and sometimes we're looking for the same kind of people. So and by the way, that's something I very truly encourage. So we're not adopting like a competition approach with most of the other recruiters from other studios. Sometimes I've had candidates who are looking for a new opportunity. I didn't have any opportunity for them. I would share their profile with other recruiters, and sometimes we try to help each other like that. So that helps when we have very difficult roles to fill. But yeah, technical roles, especially in programming, in technical animation, technical designers are very, very difficult to fill. There's not a lot of people. I'm glad that schools are having some programs around those topics now a bit more. So there's more new grads in those roles than before. But yeah, those people will need to get some experience in the industry, and then at some point we will be able to have more people in those roles, I think, in the different studios.
Amazing. And I believe that Don't Nod has been putting out some internship positions for recent grads. What sort of experience has that been?
We've had great experiences. Of course, I think one of the biggest challenges for a studio like ours is that we're not very big. So compared to other very big studios where sometimes there are like multiple hundreds or thousand people, they're able to bring and on board a lot of new grads at the studio. Something that was very important for us was to make sure that we had the right team, enough of seniors and people that had interest to be able to support those interns that would join the team, so that they would have a great experience doing their internship with us, and that they would not be let alone during their internship or anything like that. I've had internships before, again, when I was a new grad. Some of them were better than others. So I think it's very important that we make sure that, again, we get internships for the right reasons, and that we have time, and that we really have interest in supporting them and help them grow in their world. So that's something that was important for us. So we didn't have a lot of interns, but yes, we did have a few of them join us at the studio. And even we've been able to hire 2 of them in permanent roles. So that's something that we're very proud of.
I love that. Look, the thing that you've said there, you've not been able to bring on many grads as a smaller studio. However, you've brought on grads. 2 of them have gone permanent, and that support network has been there. What you wanted to do is ensure they've got the right leadership around them, the right support, the right training. And look at what a success story that has been. 2 of them have become permanent. And I think if every studio was able to adapt that sort of scheme to bring in more interns, then you won't find it so difficult to fill them technical roles in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And about technical roles, it goes back to what I was saying. Like, it's been known that technical roles were not the roles where there was the most diversity before. So that's something that we're seeing more diverse people as well get into technical roles, new grads. So that's something I think is very important. And I hope it keeps going into that direction, because I think we're on the right path. And yeah, in a few years, it will probably be much more different than it is right now.
Awesome. So coming up to my last question, so Don't Nod Montreal have been cooking up their first original IP and want to hear a little bit more about it. So Lost Records, Bloom and Range, there's been a lot of hype around it for the past couple of months with the trailers, etc. We know that the world of gaming is restricted by NDAs. But what can you tell us, and what can everybody expect?
Yeah, of course, I can't say much right now. But what I can say, so Lost Records Bloom and Rage, it's a narrative adventure developed by our Montreal studio. And it's the very first game, by the way, of the Montreal studio. I think players can expect compelling stories, as always, and really memorable characters, as it's been the case with Life is Strange before as well. It's scheduled to release in late 2024, so it will be on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. So I really invite people to check out the latest trailer that was online on our website for more updates and announcements from the team.
Awesome. Nice and brief, but keeping people compelled to see what's going to be coming at the end of the year. Look, I'm super excited to see the game. The trailers have been nothing short of exceptional. So it's an exciting time for the studio, and I'm sure it's going to be a huge success. For anyone that's interested in Don't Nod, of course, in terms of applying for work, connecting with you, tell us a little bit about that. What's the best way to do it all?
Yeah, of course. So basically, if not already, please follow our LinkedIn page. It's the best place to keep informed about what we do here at the Montreal studio. Send me a connection invitation. I'll be more than happy to discuss with people, give some portfolio reviews or some advice for people who would like to join the industry. So make sure to add me. Every month we try to share all the positions we have at the studios on our corporate page, but I also share those open roles when I open them. So make sure to follow me, follow the studio, have a look at our career website, and you'll make sure to not miss any opportunity we might have.
Amazing. Well, look, Jacob, it's been I've enjoyed our conversation, and I think everyone else will as well. This was a first podcast for me, so I really appreciate you coming and joining. It's been a nice little back and forth between us, and it's been great to hear about your story, what's been going on over at Don't Nod. So thank you.
Thanks for the invitation again. Thanks for inviting me, and I can't wait to see the other podcasts you'll be doing.
all in the pipeline. We'll see. Can't wait to post this up. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks again.
Thank you.